Did you know that Kansas is the home to the world's oldest college graduate? Anybody know that? Right here in Kansas. Her name is Nola Oakes. O-C-H-S. I may have that pronounced wrong. Nola Oakes. She's 95 years old, and she recently graduated for none other than Fort Hays State University. And she graduated with a degree in history. She is the world's oldest college graduate. Not Kansas, world. She began taking college courses over 30 years ago. So 90, 80, 80, 70, she was 60-something years old, taking college courses. And here's what she said. Several years ago, I quit counting my age. We celebrated my birthday, but I didn't want to be told how old I am. To make this not even just a little bit more special, she was at Fort Hays State University, and she ended up graduating with one of her granddaughters. Her 21-year-old granddaughter, Andrea, also graduated at the same time as her grandmother. After, when people were asking her questions and reporters were asking her, well, what do you plan on doing now? You're 95 years old, you graduated college, you're going to retire, you're going to take it easy, you've earned that. And this is what she said. I plan to seek employment on a cruise ship, going around the world as a storyteller. If there isn't any other example of you're never too old, I think Nola Oakes is that example. You are never too old. Today is Christian Education Sunday. It is a time that we stop, reflect, and celebrate our teachers. It is also a time that we reflect on our own journey. How many of you can remember your time as a child in a church? Raise your hand. Or maybe Christian education as your child wasn't something that you did. Maybe you're an adult that can remember the first time, whether it's this church or another church, stepping in those doors for the first time. Whether it's listening to the pew music, whether it's listening to the music being played by the piano, singing songs, remembering what it was like to sit for your first sermon. That could be good and bad. I thought a lot of that as I prepared for today, and I thought about my own journey in the church. As many of you know, I kind of am a product of what I was raised. My mom was director of Christian education at the church that I went to. But even before that, before we moved from Medicine Lodge to Ark City, Kansas, I can remember what it was like to sit in these pews. Only the church that I grew up on didn't have carpet. And back in the day when your parents would have you wear those little sandals that had the little strap, and they had kind of a, we thought they were heels, but just that little clumpy thing on the end. And of course, I'm one that's a little ADD. I've never been one that could sit still very well. And I can remember my mom saying, don't move. Do not move. Be really quiet. Don't talk during church. Listen to everything that pastor's telling you. You need to take it all in. Don't move. Well, you know what it's like when someone tells you, don't move. Suddenly, every bone in your body starts hurting. And you start wondering how you're going to move it. So I can remember sitting on that pew, my feet going back and forth. But because I'm short, I couldn't exactly reach the pew. And on this particular Sunday, I can remember I had shoes that didn't have the strap. So every time I moved my foot, don't move. But then I also think about Vacation Bible School. And those of you that are on the hospitality team, please raise your hand. If you've ever baked a cookie or a pie or a dessert, raise your hand. Let me tell you, don't ever think that what you do isn't part of the process of Christian education. Because to this day, I can remember two things that I absolutely loved at church. One of them at Vacation Bible School, and I don't even know why this sticks in my head to this day, but it was popcorn with chocolate sauce. That was one of them, and cinnamon. And the other one was miniature cheesecake. And I can't tell you why, when I'm 37 years old, I can still remember Medicine Lodge United Methodist Church. One of the three things I loved was popcorn and cheesecake. That memory still sticks with me. And though it does seem kind of silly to think about, you do make a difference with the food that you bake, with the prayers that you say, with the bread that you make for communion, with the songs that you sing, with the fact that each of you are here as a family of God. You are never too old, and your job is never too small. Today we live in a society where church and faith and religion kind of get mixed up into a ball. And according to one survey, the number one fear of Christian parents is that they will not pass on their values, their morals, their faith to their children. What can we do about that? I want to start off by saying, number one, that this isn't a problem that is only for our parents in this group. This isn't a problem that is only for our grandparents or step-parents or family. This is a problem for our entire church to take hold of. And there are three things that I believe we can do. Number one, build a relationship. Passing on our values requires a relationship with one another, not just with our children, but with each other. You shall teach these things diligently to your sons and daughters, and shall talk to them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. It is really important in our world that if there's anything that we see that's missing in our youth today, is that they are looking to be in relationship with one another. Once upon a time when I was in college, I had the opportunity to sit down with a bunch of gang members for a dinner. Let me tell you, that's a little intimidating, sitting down with gang members. And it was in the process of sitting down and we were feeding people, but it was actually a particular gang that actually came in to feed the hungry as well, which is something you wouldn't really think of. But as we were talking and we were kind of sharing our stories and we were realizing that we were all kind of the same age, they started talking and they said, you know why I joined a gang? Because I didn't have anyone at home that took care of me. I went home after school and I took care of my younger brothers and sisters, and then I fed them and bathed them, and I had nothing. And so pretty soon I would go out when I had the opportunity and I would meet other people, and the gang, I just wanted some friends. It started all innocently, and pretty soon I found a place that I was accepted, and then that went into one thing and that went into the other. Being in relationship with one another. What would it have been like for that young man who was probably no more than 18 years old? What would it have been like if someone from our congregation or one of us would have said, you know, you look like you could use a meal, or you look like you need a place to go. What about that youth group over here? What about sitting down with someone who could be like a father or a grandfather? Building relationships is really important. Spend time with those you love, whether it be your children or your grandchildren or even the children right here in our church. What are ways that you show young people that you care? Number two, be an example. also from Deuteronomy 6, "And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be on your heart." The truth is that we can say to our kids, these things are important, these values are important, and these things we want you to take with you. But the reality is, our kids are watching. Our kids are watching not only our parents and other peers, but they're watching those of us here at church today. I don't know about some of you, but lately being a Christian seems like it's kind of a hard thing to be right now. You turn on the television and you've got the conservative side, and you've got the liberal side, and you've got the "you shall do this" or "you're going here," and then you have our doors and our arms are wide open. As confusing as it is to be a Christian as an adult, what is it like for our children and our grandchildren to turn on the TV and to see these symbols? What is it like for our children to hear the message that God loves us, that we are to love our neighbor like no other, yet see us stand on a corner with a Bible in one hand and hate spewing the other? It's hard to be a Christian, but there is still hope, and God is still a part of that as well. Number 3, share the truth. Passing our values to our children includes instruction. Instilling biblical values requires a commitment to teach our children consistently and at every moment. And once again, God says, "You shall teach these things diligently to your sons and daughters, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you rise up." Several years ago, parents spent hours working alongside their children. Some of you may even remember a generation that did that. Unlike today, children grew up on the farm. Most of them were at the farm. And they went with mom and dad, or mostly dad in the farm probably, or grandpa, and they went out into the field. And not only did they have the opportunity to work the land and learn about God's creation, but it created opportunities for a child and a parent to be in communication with one another. It created the bond to be able to talk about those things that are happening in our world. Same with women. Women had their daughters in the kitchen with them and spent time cooking and cleaning and teaching them all these things. And though our world has changed and those are a little bit more entwined with one another, there are still opportunities that we can take to be in communication with our children. Maybe it's sitting down at that PS3 and playing that video game that we don't understand, even if it's having them teach us how to use the controls. Maybe it's taking that time on that mother-daughter lunch, or that father-son, or father-daughter, or whatever it is. Our kids are looking for a place to feel loved and accepted. And if they don't find it here, they're going to find it out there. Get involved. So how does that correlate with all of you? Some of you are probably sitting there saying, "I've been a grandparent. I've been a parent. I'm kind of through that stage. I don't have anyone at home." But the reality is that God calls each of us to continually be in prayer, to continually love our neighbor, to continually find ways to teach others about Christ. And I'm here to tell each of you, whether you want to hear it or not, that nowhere in the Bible does it say, God says, "I am retired. I may sit and watch and let other people do it." And I say that really lovingly, with care and love in my heart. But the reality is that we as a congregation have the opportunity to make a difference in the life of our children, youth, and our young adults. This is our opportunity. Maybe you're not one that wants to be like Jim Stadler who has graciously agreed to give our Rock after-school program a chance. And Jim, I apologize ahead of time for putting you on the spot. But several weeks ago, a couple months, probably a month or so ago, I went to the men's coffee group, and Julie went with me. And we were prepared. We were all excited about the after-school program. We've been working on it for a year, and we went up to them, and before they could tell us, okay, this is kind of a woman's thing. Women need to be the teachers. I was ready for that, wasn't I, Julie? And we said to them, you know what? Our young people need male role models just as much as females. That this isn't a female job. This is a God's job, open to all people. Well then, I wasn't done, because I wanted to make sure that I got my point that I really was thinking of people that would be good for this. So Jim Stowler just happened to be walking through the foyer one Sunday morning, telling me what a great, excellent job that Julie and I did presenting the after-school program. So what did I do? I used that opportunity to turn to Jim and say, Jim, I have been praying about it, and I really think that this is something that you would be good at too. And Jim's response, after he laughed at me, was, I don't know, Stephanie. You know, I'm just this old man. I don't really have anything I can give to these kids. I don't know, Stephanie. I don't know. And a few days later, he came up to me, and the next thing I know, Jim had taken the Sacred Space class. He gets through the process, but then he comes up to me again and he says, all right, I gotta be honest with you. I took the Sacred Space class, but I don't know. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know the lower level, stairs, kids. I just want to tell you, I don't think I'm going to go through the process, but I am praying about it, and I'm thinking about it. And I said, that's okay, Jim. You took that first step, and that's okay. Lo and behold, this last week we had after-school training, and guess who was there? Jim was there. Now, it may seem like I'm picking on Jim, but the reality is that each of us are sitting in those pews, and that there's something, maybe it's not the after-school program, but there's something that God is calling each of us to do. And maybe it's coming in the form of a gnat, like me, coming up to you and saying, you know, I've been praying, and I think you'd be good at this. Or maybe it's doing something else. Maybe it's being on the hospitality team and baking cookies. Maybe it's helping a vacation Bible school. Maybe it's doing something as simple as sitting down each day and saying a prayer for our children and our youth. But I'm here to tell you that God is calling each one of you. And though you may want to hide in your pew, there's going to be people like me that maybe God is sending to knock on your door and to ask you. And I gotta be the first to admit, I myself remember that knock on the door. I remember turning and saying, nope, I was raised in the church. I want to go to college. I want to do this with my life. I am not going to be a preacher. I'm not even going to work in a church because I know what that's like. But God keeps knocking, and God finds a way to open the door. And maybe the door is a different door than what you originally thought, and maybe the plan changes. But whatever it is in your life that God is calling you to do, I ask that you pray about it. The reality is that our kids and our children need to know that in a world of chaos, hate, and violence, that there is hope in God, that there is faith in humanity, and that we truly can love our neighbor even when we're different from one another. May it be so.